Hi Shufflers, it's Kat, Editor-in-Chief at Shuffle Online, and in this episode we're talking about the ATX Television Festival that took place on June 6th through June 9th in Austin, Texas. And if you're not familiar with the ATX Television Festival, this year was its 8th season, and it's a 4-day event, and it celebrates television in all forms: pilots, screenings, Q&As, panelists. They have reunions with TV casts from previous shows, and it's just really exciting if you're a TV fan and TV lover, and we always enjoy heading to the ATX Television Festival. And we're joined by special guests, the Daley Review, who we met at the ATX Television Festival back in 2018, and by our lovely editor and writer, Jackie. And we're on site in this podcast episode at the Roaring Fork, which is a restaurant at the Stephen F. Austin Intercontinental Hotel. So you'll get the ambiance of the festival. We really enjoyed recording it, and here you go.
Hi Shufflers, it's Kat, and we're back with Shuffle the Podcast, and we have a special guest.
I'm Jackie, and I am a writer and copy editor for the site.
I'm Paul Daley.
I'm Caroline.
And we're both podcasters with Daley Review and SoManyShows.com.
And we actually met the Daleys last year. Well, I met you guys 1 year ago, so it's like our anniversary.
It is.
We should have some mimosas. Like a toast.
That's the one, or it's the paper anniversary, isn't it?
We should give you money. For sure. We'll do that, Kat.
Yeah.
Or at least paper.
But we're here at the ATX Television Festival, and you guys have been here 5 years. I've been here the last 3 years, and then Jackie's been here the last 2. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, just to start it off, we could kind of just talk about our experience with ATX TV Festival in general and let everyone know what it is and why we love it so much.
All right. Well, 5 years ago, our first ATX was the Gilmore Girls reunion, which I think everybody that's been here since then agrees that was the biggest event in the whole history of the festival. But we also had a couple other cool things that happened there. There was a Simpsons writers were there, and we got to ask Simpsons writers actual questions about the movie and the show. I asked about Spider Pig. They took the question seriously and answered me, so that was pretty cool. And then there was also a panel for a show called The Leftovers, which kind of got us into podcasting, and we got to meet Damon Lindelof and get a picture with Doctor Who. So that was a good day.
It was. So we are TV watchers all the time, consuming all different shows, and this was the first festival or convention or con or anything that gave us an opportunity to see shows before other people saw them and have all these reunion shows as well. So for us, it was like the best of all worlds. We got to do everything.
And that was before. I don't know if you watched The Leftovers, Shufflers, but that was before they had told everybody that they were moving the show to Texas. So it was like magic that all of a sudden that morning they announced, we have 3 cast members that are here. Because they hadn't told anybody, by the way, we've moved the show to Texas. We're already making it. That's why they're here. So that was like a super cool surprise. So now every year I come to ATX, I load the app so that's where the secrets come out. Is they update the app and it says breaking news, cast members are showing up or something like that.
Oh, on the ATX TV app?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then any other highlights from the years that you were here?
Oh gosh, I think, the Gilmore Girls year was definitely my year. I would say Battlestar Galactica was Paul's drooly year.
Yeah, that was kind of a late ad. That was the year that they had planned on doing an Everybody Loves Raymond reunion, and they had already advertised it, and they'd already shown the cast as attending, and then Doris Roberts died, and so none of that happened, not even a single panel, nothing. And so they shifted gears and they went to Battlestar Galactica instead, and they got most of the cast, and that was pretty cool. And they were all very charming on stage and had a lot of good stories to tell. Edward James Olmos, I got a picture with him. That was pretty cool. And what else? There was...
They even had cast members that like videoed in like on like the big screen so that they could be a part of it, even though the guy was like in France.
Yeah.
That was funny because he was having a sleepover party with his kids, and so that was super funny and weird. But that's the cool thing about ATX is like I feel like people participate in these ways that are so much more casual and relatable and like accessible, as opposed to just like this, talking head kind of celebrity. They are having like a slumber party with their kids, and
reunion. I guess very early on, Friday Night Lights was like the show for ATX because so many of the actors are local, and so they had done several mini reunions, and they decided to do like a last one so that they could stop asking them to come and be the backbone of the thing. And so they went out to one of the fields that they had used for the show, and they showed an episode, and they had cast members, and that was very interactive and cool to see.
I think the best part was Crucia Victorious played, and the actress who plays Grandma Saracen put on a house coat and her Grandma Saracen glasses and got out a tambourine and played on stage with them, and that was hilarious. And then we got to go in the Panther Field House, and like touch the little wall where it says like J Street was here and all that kind of stuff. So again, it like made TV come alive. Like it was real. It was all real.
It's all right there next to the airport. It's not hard to find.
in Austin.
Yeah, in Austin. Yeah.
Can you talk about how it's changed? So you were here. It was season 3. They call the each fest year seasons. So season 3 and now season 8. Is there any improvements that are noteworthy, or just things that I don't know that you've seen?
A couple things. And I don't know if this is exciting stuff, but administratively, the volunteers are better informed now. They know, like, if you have a random question, they have better random answers. Instead, in years past, they were more like, I know to tell you to go around this corner, and that's it. And now they seem a little more sorted out. And then this is maybe just a personal thing, but they had been scheduling the fest at the same time as a motorcycle rally, and it created a very loud, somehow even hotter atmosphere with all the bikes. And I don't want to say anything about anybody. I'm just saying I'm glad that they separated the weekends. It was an improvement for
yeah, because the lines are outside, and so all the exhaust like sitting next to you was a bit much. Some of those years, I think we were all a little lightheaded going into the Alamo. But I also think that they have focused in on more issues that have kind of seeped into pop culture. So like, for instance, like things like sex scenes or things like diversity. It's been talked about a lot within the industry, but it's like it also has seeped over into regular current events that people are talking about more. And so I think that we have had an opportunity to hear from like the horse's mouth on like how they're changing the industry, where they're trying to work on different things, and listening to fans. I can remember the very first years, the only conversation was about diversity having to do with color of skin. That was it. And then I can remember following years, someone standing up and saying, what about overweight people? What about, like, come on, the diversity means diversity, And then certainly I would say this last year, I would say there's a lot more, I would just say overall diversity of all walks of life. A lot more like cultural diversity has come in. And so I think that's all fantastic to celebrate and put like a big spotlight on.
And then what about you, Jackie? How has your experience been at the ATX TV Festival?
Well, speaking to the fact that we go to multiple festivals each year, I would say the best thing about this one is that it is still relatively small. So you don't feel like the town has been taken over. It's more like there's 4 blocks that have been taken over or something like that. So, it's great to get the fast passes and get that priority seating, but you also don't feel like if I don't get it, I can't go or something like that. So it feels more accessible, I think.
Yeah, that's true. It's nice because it's June and then it's hot here, and this year I feel it's even hotter than previous years. So it's nice just having to walk a few blocks, and you can make all the stuff that you need to make.
I don't miss that Google fiber space. Sorry to say, Google, if you're listening, but
I would have not gone
Google's
anywhere to
always
Google Fiber if there was anything this year, because it's been like 100 degrees.
Agree. And then, and to your point about the amount of people, it has also allowed us to actually get to know people year to year. So a lot of times when you're standing in line, you're standing with the same group of maybe 50 or 100 people in different panels. So we got to know people's names. We've definitely exchanged like Twitter info and that kind of thing, and see the same people year after year, which is pretty cool. Because like I saw a guy and he was like, "Weren't you taller?" And I was like, "I was wearing platform heels last time you saw me." Like, that's just why. But it's like so funny, right? That you're like, "You remember that?" And yeah, I think people remember one another and check in on each other. Like, "Oh, what are you watching now?" And take each other's like recommendations, which is so nice. As TV viewers, you always want to find something new and different, and it's nice to have like a trusted kind of person. And you feel like if you're coming to a TV festival, you know your business. So I'm not like gonna waste my time. You know, you're gonna really tell me something good.
Sometimes you even guest host podcasts.
Sometimes, if you're friends with Shuffle.
With new friends, yay!
Exactly.
I like that aspect too, because I feel like everyone here, and I'll hear conversations, people are talking about TV, and I just feel like at other festivals, they're coming because they want to, but I feel like they're doing it just because like, oh, it's a big festival, or I gotta be there and check it out, but they're not really coming because they want to see like Roswell or the panel or Battlestar Galactica. They're like just going for whatever. But here, I feel like people are all in, and if you haven't seen a TV show, you don't want to admit that. If you go to a panel where you haven't seen it, you don't want to admit that you haven't seen it because people get mad.
My go-to line on that is like it's on my list, and I've heard a lot of good things. My friends watch it. Like I have this whole like kind of thing that I do that I'm like, I'm not lame, I swear.
That's basically my everyday life. Is like anytime someone brings up a show, I'm like, look, it's on my list. I've heard it's good. Like I do the entire string of them at once.
Yeah.
But it came up at The Good Place, the podcast, because Mark Evan Jackson said, I'm about to spoil the show. So if anyone hasn't seen it, I'm about to spoil it. And Darcy Carden said, has anyone here not seen the show? It's okay if you haven't. And no one raised their hand. And they both look at each other and go, someone is lying.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it that they tried to be thoughtful, right? That's cool. But that's another thing that, like Paul was saying, there's like all these different little snippets that'll drop on the app, someone's coming or something like that. In almost all of the panels over the years, we have gotten information that was not available anywhere else. And that kind of thing, makes you feel like as a TV watcher, you're being rewarded for your loyalty and for your fervor, I guess, that you actually care. And it's exciting.
Well, like yesterday, we got a clip of Veronica Mars that isn't out yet. It won't be out until the end of July. But we've seen the first 5 minutes, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I also feel that the panelists here, like the actors or creators that come, they're really giving with their time, and they're not as, I guess, like snooty about people like coming up to them. Like they actually want to engage with the fans and audience that come here. So I think that's also a unique thing about this festival, because sometimes you go to other film festivals or festivals in general, and they kind of just like want to beeline to the exit. So I think that's really cool here as well.
I completely agree. There's a very like us and them feel at other festivals where it's like, well, they're talent and we're not, and we're civilians, right? And one of the nice things is like a lot of times other panelists or celebrities will come into other people's panels as true fans, and they really want to watch, and they really want to support and be a part of that show. Also, like we had one of the Leftovers actresses actually come down to us and be like, daily review, and we were like, hey, and she did like a little promo for us, like just on the spot, because she recognized us from Twitter, and we had gone back and forth within the show. No spoilers, but her character was like missing, and she was diabetic, and I kept tweeting her like, I'm very concerned that Evie's not getting her medicine. Like, this is very concerning. She's like, you're so sweet to care about her, and I'm like, but I do. Like, I'm nerved up about it. So little things like that, like just you're not gonna get that anywhere else.
Right. That was Jasmine Savoy Brown that did that. And that like she mentioned, that Leftovers panel from the very first year that we were here, The only people, they had enough time to take a couple questions, and the people that stood up, one of them was Kevin Williamson, who wrote Dawson's Creek and Scream. And so he had a question, and another person was an actress named Emily Rose, who was in a show called Haven. So it was like all these really pretty famous people that were attending this thing, and that was an eye-opening thing to kind of be impressed in your first year. Like, this is a really cool place to be.
So I guess, do you guys have anything else to add about your previous experience before we get into 2019?
This doesn't happen anywhere else. This is so special. Like for instance, in the line for the Gilmore Girls, there were more people in line than they could seat, unfortunately. And one of the actors, Scott Patterson, the guy who plays Luke Danes, actually came around and thanked the line for standing out in the sun, because there was a good chance some of them weren't going to get in. And the fans were so hardcore that some of them unfortunately passed out, and ambulances were called. And not every woman who had been called left. Lots of them were like, "No, I'm staying in line.
Yeah, like
hydrate me, but I'm staying."
They literally, like, the paramedics were like giving them water, and then they were like, "And I'm going into Gilmore Girls. Like, I'm not going." And so that's hardcore, right? I think other things about the festival in general, again, is that feeling of the whole camp for grown-ups kind of feel, where everybody really, you're not here to like dress to impress or try to schmooze people as much as legitimately like making friends at sleepaway camp. Like, you're gonna make jokes with them and you're gonna hang out, but there's no like pretentious, like I have to act a certain way or be a certain way. Like, just be yourself, have fun, wear your running shoes, enjoy yourself, and everyone else is doing the same. So it's very comfortable.
With the exception of the competition or the pitch competition, I think what separates this from a film festival is that it would seem very out of character if you were trying to sell your TV show here. You know what I mean? So there's not that kind of, I don't know, what's the right word? Sleazy or something.
You don't
like,
need to schmooze anybody.
There's not that aspect to it, where a film festival, that's the whole idea of the film festival, is to get it noticed, get it bought, get something happening with your movie. These are TV shows that are already made. So that element is gone, and it, like most people have said, it's super low key, laid back.
I think it's really cool that they give sneak peeks to new stuff, but also that they honor the older stuff. Like, they had stuff that they have an entire category for canceled before its time, like TV shows at this festival. So yeah, it's like you kind of have like this wish list of like reunions you want to see, like the Gilmore Girls reunion, and like it's like I would love for them to do like a Pushing Daisies or something like that, and you just like, but it's not like, well, they'll never do that. It's like, maybe it will happen. I don't know. That's what's nice about it.
Oh my God, I want a Lost reunion so bad.
Oh, we would still be there as well. We'd be John locking it up, man. I'd be like pop and lock in my John Lock, right? One of the things that's cool, again, like in the uniqueness, I love that they do those script readings where they like change it up and they have like other actors. Even the one we sat in on was where they had like the guys play the girls and the girls play the guys.
It was the pilot of Dawson's Creek.
And it was so funny to have them like try to kind of imitate each other doing those parts, and I think that's a really fresh way to celebrate TV. That feels like it's so familiar, and yet they're doing it in a twist way that's fun.
It was like Mae Whitman reading for Dawson.
It was really fun.
With Kevin Williamson there as like the narrator.
And she was trying to be like, "Come on, Joey!" Like she was doing like
oh my God.
really like her version of Dawson's. It was really funny, and those are the kind of things too where like if you're in the Alamo Drafthouse, you can sit back, have a beer, eat your popcorn, and like enjoy it at a level that's like I can't really appreciate any other festival. I've been to a lot of cons, touching Paul's shoulder, because I've seen a lot of comic books in my day, friends. And this just has this element of like no one's pushy in line, nobody's giving you like you don't know this, you're so out of it, you're so ignorant. Everyone's like, oh, you don't know about this? Let me help you find it. Let me tell you about it. And like inviting people into our fandom instead of like, did you say DC and you meant Marvel? Like you're a jerk, that might be my role in those cons.
Plus, we got to see a Duchess a couple years ago. Where else are you going to see that?
That's true.
Got to go to England to see that, right?
It's a whole different thing.
So I know the Daleys and Jackie were able to see Euphoria, which was the opening night pilot. So if you guys want to talk about how that was. Zendaya was in the house.
Yeah, so that's HBO's new show. I don't know if this is just my algorithms, but they've been pushing it pretty hard to me every weekend when I would watch Game of Thrones. And they were like, coming soon, Euphoria. So, I felt like I had to catch it. And it is a teen drama, unlike a teen drama I've ever seen before. They had some of the main cast members there, and Eric Dane, whom I loved from Grey's Anatomy. So,
McSteamy.
yeah.
Did you feel the same way about him post watching it?
No spoilers, but no.
So I'm guessing he doesn't play a likable character.
He is. It's undefined right now, but not great.
How do you define liking?
We're both like Jackie. We have a very different idea of what is perhaps
What
like
are your criteria, Jackie?
Well, we've seen one episode, and he was in it for like 2 minutes. So
True. That's true. So I felt like I saw him on the sidewalk outside when we were going in, and my face was like super smiley. And when we came out, I saw him again, and my face was like full on grumpy cat. Like I was like, like I did not appreciate your behavior. Like I was definitely night and day on my feelings for Eric. But they did have Zendaya was there, and I thought she was very well spoken, very like poised, did a great job of explaining everything, and also being casual and like accessible. Like she even has said, like, yes, I'm wearing this beautiful suit. Yes, I look all put together up here, but in real life, you guys, I'm wearing running shorts and my flannel and my Chucks, and she even said she wore some of her real clothes in the show, and so it gave again like that stuff you're not going to know as a fan. You're just going to see the Instagram polished version, and so that was a cool insight.
yeah, she was really, really funny. Like especially during the the whole audience Q&A kind of stuff. It was like she had to be so off the cuff.
I don't know if Euphoria is going to make it onto my to-do list personally. I don't think it was for me.
It was a challenging show visually for me because definitely we have teenage kids. So for us, it was a nightmare glance into what they could be doing. As accurate as it could be or not, it was still like a lot. It was intense. And I think that was the word used by every single person that was walking out was like, wow, that was intense. And one of the things that's interesting about this festival is you get an opportunity to see things that are meant for TV on a big screen. And I think that unto itself for this particular show was particularly jarring because there were scenes that were meant to be on your small screen that now body parts are the size of my head, and I wasn't ready to absorb that.
Little Dane.
I was not ready.
Like someone's elbow?
Yeah, someone's elbow. That's what concerned me, was the elbow. But so you get what I'm saying. Like it was a different look at a show that I wonder if that shapes fans' opinions. Like I would love to know other shufflers' opinions. Like yell out to Kat on Twitter and Jackie. Do you think that you would take it the same way if you saw some of your favorite TV shows blown up to this giant level, or would it feel differently? And for us, I would say some of those ones, especially if there's like sex, violence, intense scenes that are now gigantic, it's impactful in a way that I don't know that they even meant it to be that hardcore, but it came off that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was put together, it was constructed in a way like the editing and the way that the visuals and the sound work together is jarring, and I think it was intentionally that way. Like it'd be like really loud music that would just stop all of a sudden, be really a lot of motion, and that would just stop all of a sudden. And so it was like the momentum of the show was herky-jerky, and I think that was supposed to help with the unreliable narrator's kind of wobbly point of view and kind of express all that. And that's a challenging show to want to dive dive into for me presently, Paul, right now?
Yeah, I mean, I last year got to see the Sharp Objects premiere, and I'm a big fan of the book, like all of Gillian Flynn's books. But and I saw the premiere, and I was like, wow, this is great. And I still have not watched the rest of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, for me, dramas are already so hard, and then when you take like the intensity of it and like ratchet it up, that's like, I mean, yeah, it's like I can be as interested as possible, and I'm still not sure like when I'll get around to it.
Yeah, I think that is something, again, like the medium that it's being presented on. When you're at home at your TV, you can turn the sound down. You can kind of, look away, kind of feel or whatever. But when you're in, a large theater and a huge screen and the music is like, you can't get away from it. You got to leave the building. Yeah, it definitely feels like you better be ready to take in all this content. And I heard other people feel like this was the creator had a very personal part to this story, and so I had other people say, I think this was an artist's journey, very cathartic, that kind of thing, and I'm like, I'm positive it was for him, and I'm glad that he had that, and people will relate on a lot of levels, but it didn't make that journey any easier to ingest as an outsider,
I mean, yeah, he even brought up Requiem for a Dream during the Q&A, and it's like, yeah, that's comparable. Like, I could see that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to watch it either after what you guys said. Well, because Requiem for a Dream is just super intense, and it's one of my favorite movies, but I don't know. Sometimes I can't be part of. I need to get away from those type of things in my because you only have so much time sometimes, and that's like an experience you have to have time for and prepare yourself for. So just like what you guys said, I don't know if I have to carve out an hour for that.
To Euphoria's credit, at least there are some lighthearted points to it, and like it's still teenagers, so they still like are sarcastic. They make jokes and stuff, so it's not like at 100 all the time. But
and I think to your point, Jackie, I think that's almost why it was so much more impactful, because there were small moments, especially as a woman, that it's easy for me to be like, I remember joking around with my friends like that, or I might even say stuff like that to my friends right now. And then when you see a scene later, something that's happening to that same girl, you're like, no, like, not that. So I think you're right. I think that there were parts to it that were very personal and on the nose of what teenage girls are like, and then frightening if that's what teenage girls are doing,
Yeah. But I think I might see the first episode just because I want to see what Zendaya does, and I feel like I'm really happy for her that she was able to kind of make the transition to this role from Disney to HBO.
She was super funny with Sam Levinson about that, because he was like, when I wrote this role, which is a very intense and oh my God, raw kind of woman, and teenager, she was saying that he told her that, he really had her in mind, and she's like, you're lying. Like, there's no work that I did on Disney that made you think of this girl. Like, there is no way. But she does have the depth to handle this, and that was the part that was like, wow, there's nothing about her, or really any of the actors, that felt like they're going over the top. This is cheesy, or this is not real. It just felt like, if this is real, I am scared for the world, like that.
Did you guys do anything else on Thursday?
We did. We actually went to the trivia night, which is another cool element of ATX, is that they do have evening things like karaoke and trivia night, which our team won second place, so that was freaking exciting. We won these generic fast passes that then we could apply to anything we wanted to go to. And Southwest Airlines made these recyclable passport holders out of their seats, which was very adorable. And so things like that are super fun, because again, we got to mingle with other fans, and really, you guys, this is not a trivia contest for the beginners. These are hard questions, and it's super fun.
What did you guys do on Friday morning? Any notable highlights?
I went to a discussion about playwrights that have become screenwriters. One of the ATX founding fathers, I guess, is Beau Willimon, who created the Netflix series House of Cards. And so he was a member of the panel, and so he described his process, and there were other, like the writer of Vida, Tanya Sriracha, was there, and she had the same kind of not. No, she did not. She could speak about her perspective of writing plays first, but it was not the same as Bo's. It wasn't even really close to Bo's. But yeah, it was just interesting because they themselves mentioned that they like to hire playwrights when they staff up a show, as opposed to someone that just came from screenwriting. So that was interesting. But right after that, I went to a showing of a new show from ATX called Perpetual Grace LTD.
Oh yeah, I saw some articles on that this weekend that said you need to watch this show.
It is. It's on my list to watch. It stars Ben Kingsley, so that's already, I mean, a knighted Oscar winner coming to TV is kind of a big deal, right? And he's not even really the main guy. It's got Jimmy Simpson from Westworld and Luis Guzman from lots of different things. I think of him as Boogie Nights, but that's a 20-year-old movie, so something between now and then. Also, they described it as a neo-noir. It takes place, it might be Texas, but somewhere where you can get to Mexico pretty fast. And yeah, I thought of it as something like a Tarantino script in noir, like a noir mode, basically, but if Wes Anderson had shot it. So,
wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, but it works. It really is highly watchable. Yeah, it's on my recommended list at this point.
One of the really cool things about that panel is that ATX gave out gift cards at the end for a 6-month subscription to ATX network. So that was like really cool and extra, and like another little like festival perk that I don't feel like you get elsewhere.
Yeah, we got Hulu for 3 months last year, and then ATX for 6 months this year, because we have YouTube TV and ATX isn't on the list. So now we can get ATX, watch the show. That's cool.
You guys were at the Los Spookies happy hour as well.
I actually went to the Los Spookies panel and saw the episode, and I love the way that they described it. They said their inspiration was Scooby-Doo, and the whole idea of like, that the villains are actually just like, they're having to like pull ropes and stuff to make things happen. So who does that, right? And so the concept of the show is that these sort of like young 20s group of friends start this company called Los Spookies, and they basically will create these spooky moments for you in different settings. And so like in the opening, it was a priest who felt like he was falling out of favor with his congregation because the new priest had too glossy of lips, and so he was getting all the attention. And so he asked them to basically stage an exorcism, and so they did, and so then it made him like the hero because he got the Satan right out of her. And it was very funny, very tongue-in-cheek. They have this one character, Tati, who all she has is like odd jobs all the time. And so one of my favorite moments is she's like teetering around on these shoes, and they're like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, my new job is I break in shoes for people." Like, so she's always wearing the wrong size shoes, and she's like walking around. It's super funny. It's really unique because most of the show is in Spanish and there's English subtitles. And then when they're in America, they do it the opposite. So they're speaking in English, but there's Spanish subtitles. Fred Armisen he's the creator and producer, and he was so funny. He plays a valet, and he's like, my whole life I just wanted to play a valet on TV because they're so focused. Like, they seem to love their job so much. And so like at the party, everyone was wearing valet jackets, and like it was so cute and funny. He's encouraging them to start this business, and he goes, "Look at me, I love parking cars, and now I do it full time." Like, he was like, "You must follow your dreams." And it was just, the whole thing was so funny. And the cast seemed to genuinely like each other. And sometimes, when you go to a celebrity panel kind of thing, they could be dressed to the nines, look really made up. And this entire cast looked like, just regular people. And that was refreshing and cool. So it's on my list. I think it would be really fun to watch.
And the cool thing about this festival is you run into the panelists, actors, filmmakers, wherever you go. And so we saw Fred Armisen at the happy hour, just casually. I mean, we didn't go up. I don't like going up to them unless it's the right moment. But that was really fun, like just getting to creep on Fred Armisen for a little bit.
He said hello to me.
Well, and I had been sitting in the front row in the panel, and when I was walking by, he made this like light up face at me that like my friend who stayed next to me was like, oh my God, he like recognized you, because he was like, oh, like this at me. I was like, he must have mistaken me for someone else, surely. But I was like, he was like really, his eyes, like even in the panel, they were like pleading, like, please like my show. Please, I'm like so grateful that you are like absorbing what I made. And like that level of like humble humility kind of moment is like, those are the people who are attracted to this festival, I think. Like the celebrities who have real gratitude for their fans.
So I went to the League reunion Friday night, and I've watched a few seasons of the show, so people don't hate me. Don't hate me. I actually, last night, I was with one of my friends, and he was like, oh my God, you went to the League reunion. How was it? And she's like, did you watch the show? And I was like, yeah, I watched a few seasons. Like, he was mad that I hadn't watched it because he was like a diehard. But Jason Mantzoukas and Nick Kroll were there, and as well as some of the other cast members. But oh my God, once they got on stage, they just started like riffing off each other, and there didn't need to be a moderator. She only asked like 2 questions, and and then throughout the panel, they started asking each other questions, and it was just like the creators were there, and they were just like, they were still so passionate, and this show ended 3 years ago, and it feels like they should reboot it. And they didn't say they wouldn't, but it was just so good. Jason Mantzoukas was, and he, one of my pet peeves in these kind of panels is the Q&A sometimes, because from the audience, because sometimes it gets a little awkward, and sometimes they'll be like, ask a question, and then the person will ramble on a little bit and not ask a question. And so Jason Mantzoukas basically said, oh, you're not asking a question, move on. And so I was like, yes, thank you. But
I love that.
But you guys went to Drunk History, right?
We did.
Yeah.
Before that, I actually went to the Felicia Rashad Achievement Award dedication, and that was really cool because it was moderated by one of her TV daughters from This Is Us, Susan Kalichi Watson. And man, she is, I mean, here's some trivia you probably didn't know. Felicia Rashad and her sister Debbie Allen are from Houston. Did you even know that?
No, I didn't know that.
We as Houstonians are not.
We were embarrassed to not be up on that. I was like, I'm embarrassed we don't have ads in Houston that are like, Felicia Rashad is from here, you label.
What would Felicia do?
I know, what would Felicia do? Like, I feel so bad that we don't embrace this a lot more. Like, Claire Huxtable used to live here, y'all. Like, come on. I really honestly, like, I feel like Paul's not even like giving it enough like love, because when he came back from that, I think it was almost your favorite panel. Like, your face was like smiling so big about what a wonderful woman she was, and just how smart and dedicated and real she was as an actress.
You knew you were in the room with probably the classiest person you were ever going to meet for just that short amount of time. So yeah, that was a special event.
She was a queen.
Yeah. Did she share some words of wisdom?
She did, and they came from her mom, who had been like the kind of the artistic influence in her upbringing, because her mom had been a poet and a writer and taught her music and all different kinds of things in that area. And this is uncommon advice for people. It was something along the lines of know your world and stay inside it. I thought that was kind of interesting, because a lot of the advice you hear people giving kids and stuff is more like, the world is your oyster and go expand. But however this advice worked out for Felicia and Debbie, I mean, I guess their worlds were pretty darn big because they did pretty well for themselves.
Absolutely. And I think it's actually like really refreshing advice, because I think a lot of people around our age that have kids and stuff, there's a lot of that, like, you can be anything and everything. And I feel like that mother advice is like, know what you're good at and excel at it, and like really put your heart into it. That one thing. Stop trying to be everything to everybody everywhere, which is not the message we get. It's Thor's mother's advice, right? Stop trying to be, everything to everybody. Just be who you are. And I feel like that was like very solid, real mom advice. Good stuff.
Thor's mom and Felicia's mom.
Those two. Those are the two. Mrs. Rashad. Not really Mrs. Rashad. Mrs.
Right.
Felicia's mom.
That's not how that works.
That's not how that works at all. She has a different last name, I'm sure of it. Should we not all have the same last name, Paul? Oh, no. We should never have married you.
And so, Jackie, you were at Drunk History along with the Daleys. What were some of the highlights from that panel? Because I know you're a big Drunk History fan.
Yes. I wouldn't say I've seen all of Drunk History, but I've seen quite a bit of it. Derek Waters, and correct me if I'm wrong, was drunk.
He claims he wasn't. He said God made him look and sound this way.
Yes, I almost brought that up. Yes.
But I don't know if that
But
was
he had a
accurate.
glass that looked like it was full of whiskey, so I don't know.
That's a lot of slurring.
If God made you that way, I'm not so sure.
I mean, I'm not mad about it. It felt very like on brand. So,
Yes.
I mean, whether or not he was drunk or acting drunk, that was great. That was part of it. I don't care. And then they had Doug Jones, but not the one from the Guillermo del Toro movies, and not the senator. Different guy.
I looked that up too.
And Colin Hanks, famous for many things, among them being Tom Hanks' son. And Lyric Lewis, who is an actor on, I'm blanking.
AP Bio.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking
Not
of.
TV, those two.
I was thinking of AP Bio. I've watched one episode of that, but yeah. So anyway, so yes, Doug Jones, Colin Hanks, Lyric Lewis, and she came out later than the other two. But yeah, it was really cool because we got to see clips from the upcoming, I guess, second half of the 6th season. They broke it up. I'm really excited to catch up with it and watch it at home because the clips that they showed us were like very, very funny.
I would have liked more of the cast interacting because that was pretty funny when they were talking to each other. And Lyric Lewis's segment ran really long. It was like a 2-part segment, and so they kind of sucked up the time for either questions or whatever. There was an interesting moment from like a crowd member standpoint with a helper almost burned the place down when he turned one of the stage lights into like a curtain,
velvet curtain.
and he was just going to let it go. And another dude ran across the room and then like helped him turn it off. Like, that's not how you do it.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I agree, like, wholeheartedly that the format of that particular panel, I wish it was a half an hour longer because I would have loved to have more said by Colin Hanks, especially because the parts that he did say was like super funny, but I bet he only got to say like 10 sentences because we were just out of time. It was at the end of the night and it was in one of the smaller venues, and so the body smells that were going on in that room were pretty intense because all of us had stood outside for a long time, you know. And I have to say, P. Terry's like came through clutch because that place all of a sudden started smelling like cheeseburgers and French fries. And I was like, something glorious has just happened. I am now no longer smelling like everyone's feet and pits. And all of a sudden, they started just handing out cheeseburgers and fries to everybody. And that's another one of those like ATX, like magical, like what the, like the fairy godmother came in and gave it to us. And yeah, so I thought that was
The stripper
cool.
from Friday Night Lights gave us burgers.
Yeah, it was Mindy. Mindy gave it to us.
Yeah, I was going to say about with Lyric Lewis's thing, it was like funny that she was watching it for the first time. So I was like kind of going back and forth between watching the actual clip and then watching her on stage because she was like covering her face like, I don't remember any of this.
That was super interesting that she basically all of them, including Colin Hanks, said like they remembered parts, but like certainly not all. And like the other Doug Jones, like he was like, oh man, I remember like sitting down and like being back at home. Like there was like not a lot in between. So when they say they're drunk, that is not exaggerated according to them. They are to the point of not remembering anything about filming it.
I'm kind of jealous overall this festival this year because, well, I'm not jealous. Well, yeah, I'm kind of jealous. But Jackie has been at all the panels where they've been giving cool stuff like burgers, and then you got AirPods today.
I did.
AirPods.
Wow.
At the Good Place, the podcast, as you walk in, they just hand you a box of AirPods.
Whoa.
And I was like, is this real? What's happening?
You're like, is this gonna be chocolate? I guess like foil, little wrapped.
I thought that it was going to be one of those things where it's like, put it in your ears and like there will be sound effects and then you have to give them back at the end or something like that.
Do they have any more?
I love it.
Yeah, I feel like this festival is really good with the swag, because some of the other festivals we go to, they kind of dwindle over the years because I guess it just gets too expensive, or I don't know what they're doing, but this festival always has really cool stuff. Like I still have my fanny pack that was Rugrats, and my mom always be like, if you want to get rid of it, like give it to me, or like I always get compliments on it, so I just feel like they have really cool stuff here.
I have my Mr. Tasty pins on from the year that the Pete and Pete reboot was here, and they had the ice cream truck and they had people handing out these.
They had the guy actually dressed in the Mr. Tasty outfit handing out stuff. So that was adorable. We got ice cream standing in line.
I mean, it's no ear pod.
There's no ear pod. Right? Or like a grandpa. It's no ear face thing, ear piece. Like,
It's no pea pod.
pea pod, right? I don't even get a snap pea when I go. Like, nice.
So then moving on to Saturday, one of the highlights for me was because I had to choose whether to go to Veronica Mars' panel or go to the Tremors pilot presentation. So I chose Tremors just because I remember that movie when I was growing up, watching it a lot. I haven't seen it in a while, so I want to kind of revisit it after watching this panel. But Kevin Bacon was there, and one of the cool things about ATX TV Festival is they have a thing where they want to highlight pilots that didn't make it. So they'll come and do like a read, or you get to see clips from it. So this one was actually, you had talked about earlier how they do script reading. So this one was a combination of script reading, and then they would show a clip in between. So basically going through the whole pilot of Tremors, but they would do clip, read, that kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so they were like, we'll see how it goes. And I was like, oh no, it's going to like crash and burn with all the tech stuff. But it actually went really well. They didn't have any trouble with that. So, but Kevin Bacon was talking about how he thought it was one of the few movie characters that he wanted to revisit in maybe a TV format or possibly another movie. But Universal was like, oh, I don't know if we want to do the movie. And so they kind of went forward with this pilot. And he wanted to revisit the character 25, 30 years later, which I thought was interesting because it's kind of that movie's, I don't know, but we got to see some of it because they did shoot the pilot, and it would have been really glorious because Kevin Bacon's doing that accent. They're in the town of perfection, and he's kind of past the heyday. Like there's no more graboids for those who, sorry, I'm talking in Tremor speak. If you don't know, then go Google it. He really wanted to kind of really explore some of those themes of being past the prime, and he wants to go back to that. And then also his daughter is older, so it would have been kind of exploring that. And then of course the graboids were going to come back and, has to save the world.
They're under the ground.
Why would they film it? Just him later? No
Right.
monsters?
No tremors.
But there was also like
Tremors were
hippies
done.
in there that were kind of like summoning the graboids in the pilot. Like there was a bunch of stuff going on, but I mean, it didn't make it, obviously, so.
Super fun fact, Tremors was my first date movie ever. Like, I was very young, people. I was like 12. But I was my first date, and I went to see Tremors. Yeah. It's a good movie.
Wasn't me.
No, it wasn't Paul. It came a couple years later.
Yeah, but that's a cool fact because I had no idea that Tremors was even possibly going to be a TV show.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been, I think it was fairly recent. I don't know what year they were doing this, but it would have been cool. But
They brought pilots before, like that first year we came for Gilmore Girls, the creator of Veronica Mars, Rob Thomas, not that Rob Thomas, the other Rob Thomas, had brought a show that he had shot the pilot for, and it had Rob Corddry, who You may not know the name, but if you look him up, you'd be like, oh, that guy. He guests on everything. And Heather Graham, who you do know as the leads in this sort of mixed family setup. I think they had adopted kids. I don't remember the exact details, but it was sort of a Modern Family feel, but it was made about 2 years before Modern Family. So it, like the tastes for sitcoms hadn't shifted there yet. So the timing was wrong and they didn't take it. But they showed it here at ATX, and he told us about what went into making it and what went wrong.
Yeah, so it's really cool because you get to learn those snippets. So as TV viewers and people who are really diehard about TV, it's really fun for us to kind of get that. I don't know if anybody else would be thinking like, oh, Tremors the pilot would have been really cool, but
would have been expensive for when they were trying to do it, I'm sure.
Yeah, the clip the pilot that we saw, they were like, oh, the FX are not done, but it actually looked pretty decent. Like it looked like early 2000s FX. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then did you have anything else from Saturday? I only went to a few things, which we'll talk about the City on a Hill later, but did you have anything in between that?
We did.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Undone. Were you guys there also?
I went to Undone.
Yeah, so that's the new show from BoJack Horseman creator Raphael Bob Waxberg and his producer Kate Purdy. It's an animated series, but like BoJack, much more dramatic than you might expect. So, yeah, I mean, what did you think of it?
I think I'm going to make some time to watch it. I put in a tweet that it was sort of like a Scanner Darkly's style applied to the International Assassin episode of The Leftovers, but if that was like everything that the show was going to be about. I don't know if you've seen that episode, but it's a warped reality sort of thing where what you know about how things work in space and time don't apply. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of true in what they showed us. They showed us the pilot and the second episode, because if you just watch the pilot, you won't care, really. So you need to watch the first two together, and then you'll understand this is a psychedelic kind of trip that includes Bob Odenkirk and a bunch of, since it's animated, it's like you're not sure, but there's like a moment where it's like, is that John Corbett? Yep, that's John Corbett.
That happened to me with Bob Odenkirk. I was immediately like, that looks like Bob Odenkirk, but he didn't speak until the second episode.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he spoke, I was like, that's definitely Bob Odenkirk.
And the lead is Rosa Salazar, who is just Battle Angel Alita, but here she has normal-sized eyes. And
that's how you'll know which one you're watching.
Right.
By the size of her eyes. That's
right.
going to be the key.
But I kind of knew it was her, just from the animated version of her, because I'm not familiar with her other work, so I don't really know her not Alita face. You know what I mean? But I kind of knew it was her.
It's the eyes. He means the eyes.
Yeah.
You can't miss those eyes.
I'm very curious about the fact that they made her deaf. Because I'm a parent of a deaf-blind person, and I want to see whether or not they made this choice deliberately, or if it was not. I mean, the way that they described the way the show is made, they had to shoot it, and then they had to, what was it? It was like they had to shoot it and then they had to animate it. So they had to do all the work that you would do for a normal show, but like twice. So the lead time that they need to make the show is much longer than a normal show. So it's hard to believe for me that these smart people that have already made TV shows would have thrown something in accidentally. But at the same time, I know people that are deaf and have cochlear implants, and there are certain things that character did that didn't match. They just didn't match, and I just want to see what the explanation is. But I'm going to give them the time to give it to me because the rest of it was so intriguing. I'm not going to write it off, be like, oh, you didn't get it right. They might have not gotten it, quote-unquote, right for a good reason. So I want to see what that reason is.
Yeah, I think the way that they talked about how, like, they deliberately made the family Mexican-American because it's set in San Antonio, like, that they're thinking about all of that.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of the way that they used the deaf actress in A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
Because it's like there are parts where you see it from her point of view and then like the sound just kind of cuts out or something like that. And I found that really interesting.
And that was something that I think actually was one of those points that kind of Paul talked a lot about afterwards, as because we actually employ some employees who have cochlear implants. And it reminded me of the Atypical panel when it was like a reminder of like, you may know one person or two people with a cochlear implant, but that doesn't mean you know all. And so this person, I was kind of talking down a little, because he was like, I'm not sure why they chose to do certain parts to it. And I was like, well, maybe this particular character, maybe she's going to have some backstory that's going to explain why she doesn't have some characteristics that we happen to know personal people have. But maybe
like I said, I'm going to give it the time.
Yeah, she's going to have some personal story that makes sense to us. But I think that's always a danger, and something that I think that, again, in talking about diversity, that's something that I think ATX does a good job of bringing some shows with some different people, walks of life, they're going to expose you to certain things. And then thankfully in the panel of Atypical, they talked about just because now you've seen one person with autism on TV just does not mean you know all people with autism, Same with cochlear, she may have one, that doesn't mean this is how everybody is. So I think that stuff is so important, because I think people do shy away from certain shows. So they'll be like, oh, I don't relate to that. And it's like, well, hold up, wait and watch and see what you think.
I'm gonna. I mean, the concept was intriguing, and the way they treated the point of view of the character, and the way they kind of retold it was like a story that kind of looped back on itself, because, well, they explain it that she has powers basically, and but she doesn't know anything about them yet. She's kind of awakening to them, and so she's experiencing her life as a loop. While she's sick, she's in a coma, or she's recovering from a coma. So I don't know. I described it as the International Assassin episode of The Leftovers, but just kind of like if that was going to be the whole show. And so that gives you like a challenge to kind of figure out what you're watching as you're watching it, like what rules apply. Well, okay, they turned off that rule for a while, and now it's back on. I enjoy that kind of challenge in a show. Teenagers with sex and drugs, I'm not sure about that challenge, but this kind of challenge.
That's a personal problem.
Right. This kind of challenge I enjoy.
Stop doing it, teenagers.
That's a personal choice.
Yeah, and I mean, I think and it kind of relates to Euphoria and Undone, actually, is like, and they're both dealing with mental illness, but it's like mental illness as it occurs for this character, and that's it. You know what I mean? It's like you're treating maybe schizophrenia as shamanism or like something like that.
There's a good chance she is just plain old schizophrenic, right?
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating, and it's almost like the kind of thing that they need to do like a PSA for anymore on TV shows, where they need to like right at the beginning put like a little warning that's like, warning, this only depicts these people in this show. Stop applying it to your whole life. It may not apply.
Well, that's actually a good sign, though, because finally they're making shows that are so diverse. Because before, we wouldn't even have these conversations. It was just so stereotypical or so generic. So it's nice that we're actually getting to have these conversations around, like, what kind of spectrum, or, so it's making people getting people educated as well.
I agree with you, and I hope that it's also expanding, like, not just our tolerance level and patience level of differences, but also just keeping that little part in mind that, like, this person is unique, but the next person you meet that also has autism or also has a cochlear could very well be very different than this. So don't, paint everyone with the same brush. And just that, if that's the only damn thing we learn from TV our whole lives, is like everybody's an individual, like take them for what they are. Yay, we win, right? That was like a good lesson.
It was worthwhile watching TV.
It was good. We watched all that TV.
Did you guys have anything else after Undone before City on a Hill?
Well, Veronica Mars.
Oh, yeah. I skipped over that.
Yeah, that was one of the, when I saw that, I was like, finally, the value of the ticket was there. It was like really a great, one of the things I'm very excited about seeing. And then when they added the cast, I don't know if you're Veronica Mars fans, shufflers, but they added the actors that played Logan, Keith, and Wallace, as well as Rob Thomas, the creator, and they all had a great chemistry on stage. They all were friends, and it's a very special kind of show in that they made it like 15 years ago, and there's still this demand to kind of keep seeing more stories from this thing. And so if you don't know, they made a Kickstarter movie a few years ago, and so they talked a little bit about that, and then they talked about how getting this season together and how excited they are about telling this story, and how excited they were about the new format. They showed us a new clip from that, and it was enough to let us know that whatever shackles that had been on Rob Thomas's storytelling and word choice on network TV have been removed on Hulu, and it's timely in that before Veronica was a teenager, and now she's a grown woman and says whatever she wants, and so. But it's a good match, and it really works.
She talks like a sassy 34-year-old woman for sure, which is fantastic. I need that in my life. The funny thing is that for shufflers who don't know us, you might have thought Caroline would have been the Veronica Mars fan. No, friends. Paul loves the Veronica Mars the best, and so he really introduced me to it, and I love her. I mean, she's the sass that I need all the time. But what was cool about it is that Rob Thomas said out loud, "I'm concerned that bringing her back as an adult, we're going to lose the magic of what Veronica Mars was, which was being this self-assured teenage girl at a time when that wasn't the thing 15 years ago, and that was the special part of the show." And it was very cool because an audience member was like, "No, it's not going to lose its magic." And during Q&A, she came up and she's like, "Women of all ages need to feel self-assured and need that encouragement." And Rob Thomas was like, "Thank you so much for telling me." It was a real moment of show creator, fan, and we all were like, "She speaks for all of us." She speaks for the trees. We were like, yes. And so, he genuinely was like, "Oh my God, you just allayed my fears that I've been walking around with," which was wow. Additionally, the new format with it being a mystery, it's all going to drop in 8 episodes, at one time. So he expressed tremendous fear about the mystery getting out in 1 second on Twitter and everyone being ruined. And so he is most nervous, I would say, about that, and really encouraged everyone who is true marshmallows to watch it on the first night immediately, because he's so frightened we're all going to be ruined. The other cool thing that he mentioned that I think as all TV fans, we want to know this, he said back in the day, when television without pity, I don't even know if you guys remember that, but it's basically message board style before Twitter. He said they did legit read those as writers, and they did legit change storylines and pivot, not necessarily to go towards something, but if they were trying to, if fans were getting too close to a mystery, they would purposely throw stuff in to steer people away when they thought people were getting too close. I love that shit as fans. I'm I want to know you're reading my tweets and, reading the message boards, and you actually care and changed things. Amazing. So that was a great panel. People were dying in there for Logan. Dying. He comes out of the water in a bathing suit, y'all. Let me just tell you, that was worth the ticket price. This girl was doing questions. She goes, "I'm not at all staring at you, Logan." It's Jason, is his real name. But she's like, she was just literally staring at him, and she's like, I'm not just staring at you. I have a question. But then she was just staring at him. I was like, this is so fun. So that was a really, really interactive and energetic panel.
Can't wait. Season starts in July 26th.
The whole thing drops.
Oh my God.
Also then they're putting all the seasons of Veronica Mars on Hulu anyway.
On July 1st.
Yeah, so you can get all
That's smart. They're smart.
I'm thinking they'll have to have the fans do some kind of hashtag don't spoil the end game thing, but for Veronica Mars.
Smart.
I think that would be the best way to go.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited now that you said that. I didn't realize that she would be more like she would be able to kind of be free.
She says hand job like in the clip.
Yeah.
She like so she's in the little clip. I'll share some of this. It's not spoilery really. She's joking around on the beach because these girls are ogling Logan in the water, and she acts like she doesn't know him. So she's like, "Hey you, like how much do you bench?" And he's like, "315." She's like, "Good. I have this old refrigerator. I need you to carry out of my 3rd floor apartment." And he's like, "Well, you give me?" And she's like, "I'll give you a hand job." And he's like, "Oh man." And he's like, "That's all?" And she was like, "Well, if you take out my old one, we can do some other things." And these other girls on the beach are like dying, you know, because they think they don't know each other. And he starts to say something else, and she was like, "Shut your mouth. You don't need to say anything else." Like it was so funny. Rob Thomas said he put in 18 fucks in it, but they told him after the fact that they wanted it to be TV 14, not TV MA. He thought always it was gonna be TV MA. So he switched it up and made it to where Keith and Veronica have a contest to who can not say the F word within the show. So then she says like, "What the cuss?" like all the time. So the moderator was so clever because she's like, "So you had 18 fucks to give," and she was like, "Exactly." So it was real funny.
They can choose when they're going to apply the F word.
Yeah, I mean there was a lot more innuendo. I mean, obviously, hand
But
jobs.
it's clever, and it's, I don't know, they couldn't have done it on CW or WB or whatever the heck they were on.
Weren't they on CBS for a while?
CBS. Boy, I don't know.
I want to say they were.
CW for sure,
I don't remember.
right?
I like WB and CW.
Yeah.
I think it was like during the transition. I think it was there already.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited for that show. Anything else you guys have before that?
I had one more. So I went into a panel that was called "Let's Talk About Sex Scenes." I'm really interested in this concept, and it's something that I may do like my own little podcast about, watching TVs and watching how they do sex scenes, basically. Super interested in the concept of realism and like responsibility to especially teenage women. I feel like there's a whole lot of misinformation out there about what it looks like and especially what role women play. There's a great deal of like interaction now where teenage girls will say, "Well, I'm just there for him," basically. Like, so long as he does what he needs, I don't really have a role. Like, that's what they think. I'm like, "No, girls." I'm like, "We're gonna have a lunch and learn ASAP, everybody." So I have this like need for TV to be at least have some level of responsibility when they're doing this. Now, this was talking a lot more about post Me Too. The standards or lack thereof in the industry for how they treat sex scenes, that they're really trying to push for it to be treated with the same choreography and thought out planning as like they do when there's like a gun on set or a fight scene or a car chase. Instead of, they said a lot of times screenwriters will just write, "Make it hot." And then that's it. And that's what they're given. And they don't know what they're going to do or how it's going to work out. They have these things now called intimacy coordinators, which was fascinating. They brought one in, and she's basically the conduit for communication, which was fascinating. One really cool thing she brought up that I never thought about how weird this could get. One of their big things is that there's closure at the end of a sex scene. So like the two actors are supposed to, even as silly as it sounds, like shake hands and be like, "This was a day at work, thank you," and leave, because of we're humans, and the emotional and mental gymnastics that your brain is doing. When you go to your trailers, there need to have been a break that like that was on set. That's not life. We didn't really just do that. And to like be able to see each other at the lunch table and not be embarrassed or feel awful. Fascinating stuff. They even talked about how there's no definition for what a closed set is. That means they could do anything on any set, and there's no rules. So I thought it was really interesting. That panel was heavy in that a lot of, especially women, were like, they have some really great pictures on ATX. I don't know if it's .com or Fest, whatever. It's on the apps too, where all these, they show the audience faces, which is kind of unusual in panel pictures. And all these women's faces are like absorbing this with the widest eyes, like, "Oh my God, I had no idea." So it's a fascinating subject. I loved it. I'm so glad that they brought it.
I didn't go.
I came back like a rambling Muppet about it.
Technologies panel that I went to today, they had like a Q&A. They were asking the casting directors about how you talk to an actor about there's going to be nudity or there's going to be sex scenes or something like that. So.
Yeah, because the actress they had on the panel said that oftentimes they will come in and read for a part with no idea that this is actually going to have a lot of nudity or a sex scene or whatever in it. So they sort of unintentionally consent to doing this stuff because they're cast in the part now, and then now you feel obligated to do things that like you maybe would never have done had anyone been upfront and said this is what this role is going to actually entail, because you know the scene they read was like in a restaurant or something and they didn't know they were in a brothel, they didn't know. The other thing she said that I just thought was crazy about that brothel thing is she said that when they were shooting on location they didn't bother to go through a true casting agency. They literally just brought men in off the street, not actors, not anything, and now they had to be naked with people who were not professionals in any way. Can you imagine the fear? It was like a real wow, you got that scene, you're taking it for the team, girls, for all of us in a way that's I can't believe that that's being done anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, not to get ahead, but just because it was related, the casting directors were like, yeah, that should never happen. They were like, that's part of our job is communicating what their job is going to be. And there's a lot of negotiations, so that should have been on the agent's part or all kinds of different things. And it's that sounds not great. And hopefully we never see something like that.
Yeah. And they actually had a really good point to the writers. They were like, stop being so embarrassed to write it out, because when it would come to a car chase, you wouldn't say, now just improvise, jump off the bridge or something. No, that would be planned out with all these safety nets in place and all this stuff. So during a sex scene, don't just be well, now just make it hot. It's what are you going to do to my body? No, that's not, don't handle it like that. Really interesting and shocking we've made it this far for things to not even be defined. And they kind of laughed and they said that the word television within the industry is not defined. There's actually no industry agreed definition of what television is. So when you start from that, then it's oh, that's why nudity's not defined. What is that? Is that my back? Is that full frontal? What does it mean when you sign that?
Yeah, one of the casting directors even said, they were it should be so what are you comfortable with? And then they say side boob, nipple. They have to break it down that carefully.
And I'm no, none of that. I'm not comfortable with none of that.
This is a non-nude podcast. Right?
Did I sign a nudity thing? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been showing my side boob this entire time. I apologize. Sorry, shufflers.
We got real intimate real quick. I guess the last thing from Saturday was just the City on a Hill premiere, and everyone got to speak with Kevin Bacon.
Yes, that was exciting. Did you guys get to talk to him?
She did.
Yeah, we did. I asked him. He was actually talking about. I asked him what attracted him to the role, and he was talking about how it's a callback to the 70s movies that he really liked.
I can see that.
Yeah, because it's set in this series is on Showtime. It's called City on a Hill, and it's set in the 90s, and it's kind of loosely based on the Boston Miracle. That was kind of racism, corruption, things like that. So he's playing kind of a corrupt cop, Jackie Ruth, and so he said he liked that it was kind of similar, I guess, in tone or look and the grittiness of it. What did you guys get from him?
Well, we had a very short interaction with him, and we asked him if he was in character, what would his character watch on TV, and he gave us two answers. He said the Clinton inauguration and porn. Just straight up porn was his
Which,
answer.
Paul's face, I give him credit. As his wife, I'm standing behind him with a video camera. And Kevin Bacon is earnestly looking into his eyes and saying, porn, man. Like we both watch porn. And Paul's giving him this face like, what are you saying? Yeah, like Kat's shaking her head like, no. But then Kevin Bacon like felt the need to clarify. He's like, well, he's in a motel a lot. Like, he's trying to convince Paul, like, it's okay that a fictional character watches fictional porn. And I'm just, like, smiling behind the camera, like, Kevin Bacon doesn't know I'm his wife, and I'm standing behind him. P.S. people, I could give a shit if Paul watches porn. I don't care. But it was still so funny that Paul's face was so wowed that...
Was he red?
Oh, yeah. And Kevin Bacon goes, I think I stumped you there. Because we were both just like, okay. And we hadn't seen the show, so we knew he was an FBI agent, but he really plays a much more... gritty is one word, corrupt is another word, but like sleazy is another word. And porn just was like, yeah, dude, that was a perfect answer. You're exactly right.
Yeah, but that was it for him, for us. We talked to Aldous Hodge, and we talked to Jill Hennessy, and we talked to Jennifer Todd, one of the EPs. We did not get a chance to talk to the showrunner or the creator, though. Did you guys talk to everybody?
No, we didn't get to talk to the creators. Only Joe Hennessy, Aldous Hodge, who was amazing.
Yes.
Because I'm a big Friday Night Lights fan, so that was really awesome. And I love him in everything that I've seen him. I love him, and I love the fact that now he's getting a co-lead with Kevin Bacon on a show. So
yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, so
big
I'm happy
show.
for him. Yeah. But yeah, that was really good. I haven't seen the show yet because I had to leave, but it's on Showtime now, so I'm gonna try to catch it. But
it should remind you, if you've seen The Town, Ben Affleck's movie, it feels a lot like The Town.
Well, he's a producer on it, so him and Matt Damon.
Well, and they mentioned that it was sort of like lifted a little bit from The Town, just like one aspect of that movie was kind of expanded to be a major part of this story, and then other characters added, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, if you like that kind of Ben Affleck-y Boston, but the criminal side of it, then this might be a good match for you.
And then just real quick, since we have to wrap it up, but because we're on location, guys, at ATX TV Festival, and we're going to get kicked out, but any highlights from today, which is Sunday, and the last day of the festival?
Got to talk to the Atypical cast, got to see the Atypical panel, and that was great. We have kids with autism, or on the autism spectrum, whatever the right way to say it is. And so it was great to be able to talk to them, because they all really care about what they're doing. They're not just selfishly employed or trying to slap together a performance. They really care about what they're doing and who they're doing it for. So that was really nice to talk to all them.
I think they were very respectful and responsible about representing a community that they themselves admit they're not a part of. And so they needed to be extremely thoughtful about how they did that. And they do go above and beyond. Like, all of them had gone to a musical that was fully cast with people on the spectrum, and they expressed how amazing it was. But the fact that they even do that like in their spare time is like, they really care. They're very invested in doing this right.
Show had brought actual actors on the autism spectrum into this most recent season as part of the support group for the lead character. So when you watch those scenes, you're like, these are great actors, or they're really on the spectrum.
Yeah, they were genuinely representing themselves, and it was, I thought they did a very good job, and they expressed how important it was to each of their characters to be so real on the show. So I thought that was amazing. And you said the interviews were great. They were all like very open and giving and talking about everything.
Okay, you can find us easily at dailyreview.com. That's DALEY review.com. We're also Daily Review on Twitter and Facebook. And you can also find us at somanyshows.com. The Twitter handle is more complicated, so just go to dailyreview.com.
And you guys will probably be doing a recap as well, a podcast recap on the ATX Television Festival, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be doing that. And as well as this Wednesday, which would be June 12th, we'll be doing a radio show update on SoManyShows.com. You can listen to us live. You can call in, ask questions, whatever, and we will chit-chat with you about it then.
Yeah. So lots more coverage from the ATX TV Festival, but thank you guys for being a guest.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, Shufflers, I hope you enjoyed this episode that was all about the ATX Television Festival in Austin, Texas. And if you want to continue the conversation, please follow us on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Shuffle Online and on Facebook at Shuffle Online Now. And you can find all our stories and articles at shuffleonline.net. And if you love this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, like, share. We really appreciate it. We appreciate all the support, and we appreciate you guys listening to us. So thanks, guys. Shuffle out.